It's Wednesday, October 19. In the headlines, Statin reports 4.8% economic growth and unemployment levels have decreased. Regionally, UK lifts visa requirement for Guyanese visitors. And in sports, Sunshine Girls beat the Cayman Islands 81-27. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, says unemployment fell by 1.9 percentage point in July compared to the same period last year. Statin's Director General, Carol Coy, shared the figures during the quarterly briefing on Tuesday.
The data showed that in July 2022, there were 89,700 unemployed persons, and this is 22,800 fewer compared to July 2021. The number of unemployed males decreased by 8,100. There was, however, a larger decline in the number of unemployed females of 14,700.
She says youth unemployment rate also fell by 16.7%.
There were 14,300 fewer unemployed persons between the age group 20 to 24 years, and this accounted for 62.7% of the total decline in the number of unemployed persons. The youth unemployment rate was 16.7% compared to 23.9% in July 2021.
Unemployment in the previous April quarter stood at 6%. Meantime, the Statin head is reporting that inflation, which continues to breach the Bank of Jamaica's targeted range of 4 to 6%, declined to 9.3% in September, down from 10.2% in August, and the lowest it has been since point-to-point inflation was 7.3% in December.
This inflation rate was mainly attributable to increases in the index of the divisions food and non-alcoholic beverages, which went up by 10.5%, housing, water, electricity, gas, and fuels, which increased by 8.5%, and restaurants and accommodation services, which increased by 19.4%.
Ms. Coy says most of the increase for the month was due to the cessation of the Government of Jamaica's 20% subsidy on electricity bills for customers who used 200 kilowatts per hour or less.
The inflation rate was also impacted by a 1.1% rise in the index for the division food and non-alcoholic beverages, primarily attributable to higher prices of items within the class: vegetables, tubers, plantains, cooking bananas, and pulses. The index for this class increased by 3.5%. Additionally, there was an increase of 5.3% in the index for the education division, resulting from higher tuition fees charged by private primary level institutions.
The Jamaica Public Service, JPS, has announced several maintenance-related power outages for Wednesday, October 19 and Thursday, October 20 in sections of at least 8 parishes. The Light and Power Company gave notice in a series of tweets. The areas to be impacted on Wednesday, October 19 includes Speculation and Luana Housing Scheme from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in St. Elizabeth. Bowden to Old Pera from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. in St. Thomas. In Trelawney, Paisley from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. In St. Andrew, North Avenue, Kings Plaza, and Wireless Station Road from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Lexington Avenue from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. On Thursday, October 20, the areas to be impacted includes Melrose Bypass in Manchester from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Kingswood in Westmoreland and Frome in Westmoreland from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. In St. Thomas, Morant Bay Roundabout to Cedar Valley from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. St. Elizabeth, over in Gaysdale from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Hammersmith Bounty Hall, Trelawney, from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And in St. Catherine, the areas that will be impacted includes Williamsfield, Harewood, Darling Spring, Mount Alto, Troja, Kendall, Newport, Bagby, Hamwalk, Rose Hill, and Stapleton from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. In St. Andrew, the areas that will be affected includes Castle James Road from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and Padmore District from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. More Jamaicans will benefit from services under the Jamaica-Cuba Eye Care program. The Ministry of Health is seeking to restart the program that halted during the COVID-19 pandemic. Healthcare Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says he is hoping to advance dialogue regarding the program because eye care is an underserved area. Since the program was implemented in 2010, more than 30,000 Jamaicans have benefited. Under the program, the ministry gives attention to sections of the population that are underserved, with a special focus on prevention and young children in school. The Jamaica-Cuba Eye Care program is operated from the Kingston School of Nursing, National Chest Hospital, and the St. Joseph Hospital. Coming up in the business report, Staten reports 4.8% economic growth. We have that story plus the other market updates from our reporter, Danita Rodney.
The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Staten, is reporting that the economy grew by 4.8% over the April to June 22 quarter compared to the corresponding period in 2021. The details were provided by Staten's Director General, Carol Coy, during the Institute virtual quarterly media briefing on Tuesday, October 18.
Second quarter of 2022, that is April to June, the Jamaican economy grew by 4.8% when compared to the corresponding quarter of 2021. The growth in the economy resulted from an increase of 7.2% in value added at constant prices for the services industries. However, the value added of the goods producing industries declined by 2%. Contributing to the improvement in the performance of the economy for the second quarter were the removal of measures that were implemented to limit the spread of COVID-19, such as the revocation of the Disaster Risk Management Order, the expiration of the COVID-19 pre-test requirement for travel to the island, and the reopening of the entertainment sector. When compared to the first quarter of 2022, that is the January to March, total value added at constant prices increased by 1.3%, a continuation of the trend observed since the third quarter of 2020.
For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, October 18, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.67. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $112.20. The pound sterling traded for $174.42, and the euro sold for an average of $152.42. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 1,583 points. The junior market index advanced by 17 points. The combined market index declined by 1,318 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 335 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 112 stocks, of which 53 advanced, 40 declined, and 19 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were Blue Power Group Limited, Dolphin Cove Limited, and Epley 7.50% preference shares due 2024. The overall volume leaders were Paramount Trading Jamaica Limited and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 2 million units, and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 12,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with 17 shares being traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B traded over 40,000 shares. In regional business, as Guyana prepares to auction its remaining oil blocks this year, President Dr. Ifran Ali announced that some of those blocks will be set aside for government-to-government partnerships in the future. Here's more in this story.
Guyana continues to expand its prolific oil and gas industry, and sometime this year the country expects to auction its remaining oil blocks. But on Tuesday, during a press conference at the British High Commissioner's residence in Georgetown, President Dr. Irfan Ali said that some of those oil blocks will be reserved for partnerships with other countries.
And as you know, we have some blocks that we're going to auction off. I think very soon we're going to move to the auctioning of some blocks. And we have some blocks that are set aside for what is termed government-to-government partnership. And we are looking at all our strategic partners with these blocks. We also have some natural gas field. We have not completed the national gas strategy. But in that strategy, more opportunities will be opened up.
This had not been announced before, and President Ali promised that further details on the new plans will be announced soon.
That the strategy would be to set aside few blocks for government-to-government collaboration. As you know, Barbados recently did this also, and then some for that will go out to the auction. Government-to-government collaboration is basically government working together on a common end or a common agenda. And at the appropriate time, I will give you the full elaboration as to what will constitute the government-to-government relationship, what will be the role of each partner, but that is something that is part of the policy mix now.
Previously, Vice President Dr. Bara Jagdeo explained that the government needed to institute key provisions to facilitate the auction since Guyana's laws do not allow for this. The blocks that will be up for auction include those areas that have been relinquished by oil companies searching for oil offshore.
In market data for oil prices rose despite uncertain Chinese demand growth, lower gas prices, and the U.S. stock releases. Brent crude futures rose 31 cents to $90.34 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was at $83.53, up 71 cents. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, after much lobbying from both the Guyanese government and private sector, the United Kingdom has lifted the visa requirement for Guyanese seeking to visit the country for up to 6 months. This was announced by the British High Commissioner to Guyana, Jane Miller, during a press conference with President Dr. Ifran Ali on Tuesday.
Today is a historic day for the UK-Guyana relations, and I'm delighted to inform you that as of the 9th of November, those with a valid Guyanese passport can visit the UK visa-free. And this visa lift is a real sign of the confidence that the UK has in the growth of our relationship. And together with a direct flight that will be happening at the end of March with British Airways, we believe this change is going to be transformative to our already strong relationship.
That was Jane Miller, the British High Commissioner to Guyana. On Tuesday, during a press conference with President Dr. Irfan Ali at the High Commissioner's residence in Georgetown, she announced that the UK has once again lifted the visa requirement for visitors with a valid Guyanese passport. And so, those Guyanese will be able to travel to the UK and stay for up to 6 months without going through the arduous process of applying for a visa. Usual screening and travel arrangements will apply. President Ali said that this was achieved after much lobbying, and now it paves the way for strengthened relations between the two countries.
The idea of this visa waiver for visitors is not only about strengthening the relationship and building out the expansion of our economic opportunity between Guyana and the UK. But it's important also for people-to-people contact as we try to build our tourism market, expand our tourism market, especially in the UK. So this visa waiver allows greater connectivity, greater contact, greater people-to-people contact. I will not only do well for the expansion of trade and opening up of new opportunity, but will do extremely well in bringing our people together.
Aside from this visa waiver, a trade mission featuring numerous UK businesses interested in Guyana will be traveling here in mid-November. This is part of efforts geared at pushing trade relations between the two countries.
In Belize, during Tuesday's House sitting, parliamentarians debated and sought to expound on a bill for an act to repeal and replace the Supreme Court of Judicature Act to provide for new positions within the judiciary to assist in the functions and administration of the senior courts. The bill did not get the support of Leader of the Opposition, Shine Barrow, and Corozal North Area Representative Hugo Pat. Mr. Barrow explained the reason for his objection.
This government has not taken seriously its promise to properly fund the judiciary. It was a part of their Plan Belize, and they have not delivered on it, Madam Speaker. So, to understand what this reconfiguration means, it's not as simple as having the now Chief Justice oversee all of the other courts. It costs. This has more of a demand on spending than our current configuration. And if we cannot properly finance our judiciary as stands, how can we undertake to reconfigure where it will cost more than we are currently spending?
And I wholeheartedly agree with him, because I sat on that side of the House condemning the fact that we have underfunded our judiciary for 13 long years. And let me say, Leader of the Opposition, thankfully we have records that when we come to this Honorable House next year for our budget debate, I am hoping that you give the same type of response when we increase the budget to allow for greater efficiency within our judiciary.
The bill is all about putting in place a plan, putting in place a structure for the efficient, effective administration of justice in Belize. You have to start with a plan. You have to start with a structure. And that is what this senior courts bill achieves. It creates the structure, it creates the plan for the effective and efficient administration of justice in Belize. Access to justice, that is right. We all agree, I mean, you know, that we obviously have to do more to allocate more funds to the judiciary. I think we all agree on that point.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago says they are committed to eradicate poverty through various grants and transformative actions. Minister of Social Development and Family Services, Donna Cox, shared that ideal while speaking at an event in commemoration of International Day for the Eradication of Poverty on Monday.
She noted that her ministry continues to reduce poverty through its several grants available for the most vulnerable. This is why she said government opted not to remove any of the social assistance grants accessible to the population during the recent budget. She also pointed to two specific moves by government to reduce the inequality gap.
Instead, the safety net was widened even further by increasing the personal tax allowance now available to citizens from $84,000 annually to $90,000. So that amounts to about 300,000 persons who would have benefited from this. Similarly, the introduction of a one-off transportation grant was meant to benefit those at the lowest level of the economic scale who will be affected by the reduction.
Minister Cox added that other steps are also being made to transform the lives of the less fortunate.
The establishment and implementation of a national register of vulnerable persons with the aim to significantly improve how the government identifies and targets the poor and vulnerable in society. You hear people speak all the time and ask, how do we know who's vulnerable, who poor? How do we get onto these people? How do we find them? And therefore, this register is what will assist us.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, a team of experts will provide assistance not only for children with autism, but those challenged by Down syndrome and other types of sensory disorders. That's the word from the Education Unit. More from SKN Newsline.
The team of experts comprises Teresa Iman, a board-certified behavioral specialist and infant-toddler developmental specialist, and Heather Billot, an occupational therapist on sensory integration and anxiety management. According to Iman, working with children from birth helps to identify issues early and creates the opportunity for enhanced benefits at an earlier stage of a diagnosed child. For Bello, she indicated that children on the spectrum have a really hard time processing information. Her experience, she said, includes working with persons from birth to adulthood to assist them in being able to better tolerate their environment. The center's operations includes a parent support group, contributions from Bullseye's Car Rental, the Royal Sinkers Hotel, and caring individuals. The sessions have been implemented at the Lodge Community Center with support from the Ministry of Social Development.
In international news, thousands of Venezuelan migrants are expected to be stranded at the U.S.-Mexico border following a law change by Washington.
Security forces in Guatemala blocking a bridge. Those on the receiving end of the tear gas and pepper spray are migrants, many of them from Venezuela. This incident took place over the Motagua River, a natural border between Guatemala and Honduras.
These people tried to enter the country, but their progress was halted, and we're verifying whether they can prove they comply with the requirements to enter the country.
These images highlight just some of the challenges Venezuelan migrants face as they continue to flee crisis conditions in their home country. In an effort to reduce record migration numbers, a recent change in U.S. policy enables U.S. authorities to expel illegal Venezuelan refugees to Mexico, but allows some still in Venezuela to fly direct to the U.S. for a period of 2 years, as long as they secure a sponsor. But these migrants in the Mexican state of Chiapas are not among the lucky ones. Despite the challenges ahead, they continued earlier this week to push north.
We just want to reach our destination. These people here will not stop until they reach their goal to achieve a dream that all of us who are walking want to attain. If we need to walk all day and night until we reach the end, we will do it.
We ask Joe Biden to give us an opportunity because we deserve it.
Venezuelans now account for roughly half of all migrants traveling through Latin America. And more than 7 million are estimated to be living as migrants and refugees.
Outside of the so-called Westminster bubble, British voters are facing mounting costs, and many are blaming the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss.
Hand about, big bow, hand about.
It's been just a few weeks since new Prime Minister Liz Truss promised low taxes and economic growth.
An absolute disaster.
Why is that? It's a disaster, mate, disaster.
Well, son, the price of the pound now is absolutely terrible. So the price of produce has gone through the roof. Getting it here, the transport fees is ridiculous. Anyway, I've got to try and serve this lady. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Events have moved so fast in Westminster that a new finance minister is now raising taxes and promising public sector cuts, while the Prime Minister clings to her job.
Well, it's a complete and utter shambles, and it's unbelievable, and it just gets worse and worse, and Liz Truss has just got to go.
Hard to see a way out immediately.
No easy way out. It's just going to be a tough winter.
In sports, the Sunshine Girls beat the Cayman Islands 81-27 in their World Cup qualifier at the National Indoor Sports Center on Tuesday night. The Jamaicans, who dispatched St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the United States in their first 2 games, had quarterly scores of 24-8, 45-14, 62-23 before the 54-goal margin of victory. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, Trinidad and Tobago had a 66-42 win over Grenada to assume sole leadership on maximum 8 points. St. Vincent returns to winning ways with a 49-36 victory over St. Lucia, while Barbados defeated the United States 47-26. Following their 42-run loss to Scotland on Monday in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup, the West Indies are now in a must-win situation for Game 2 of the qualification series. Experienced all-rounder Jason Holder shared his thoughts on the upcoming match with ICC Media.
The goal is to qualify for the Super 12 stage of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. And the first hurdle in that quest is Zimbabwe, after the opening round defeat.
We're all disappointed with the performance that we had yesterday. But I think the most important thing for us to do is to come together, even tighten out and try to find solutions. We had a pretty good chat yesterday after the game, and I'm sure guys went into their rooms and reflected on the performance yesterday. And no doubt, I think we have what it takes to turn it around.
Partnerships are key to improving the fortunes of a beleaguered batting lineup, according to Jason Holder.
I think we just got to be a little bit more situation aware and trying to build partnerships. You know, partnerships is the key in any cricket game. I think the situation in the game will determine, you know, how we play. And if that requires that we go for boundaries, then we look for boundaries. But if it requires that we have to knock it around for a bit, then we've got to adjust and make that, well, we've got to make the adjustment and then knock it around. I think it's that simple. And we just need to understand what's required of us when we go to bat.
Holder saw some positives during the Scotland match.
Yeah, we had a tough power play yesterday, but it was great to see the way the guys brought it back. You know, we kept ourselves really well within the middle overs, and I think we did decent at the back end. And I think if you asked us if we would have taken chasing 160, we would have said that at the beginning of the game in any T20 international game. More or less, we just gotta be a little bit more clinical. So maybe when we bowl, and as I said, the way the bowlers came back in the game was a plus for us. I think we finished the game well. And then we obviously had a pretty decent power play as well when we batted. You know, and we just faltered in the middle. And obviously we didn't have enough wickets in hand to really give ourselves a good shot at chasing the total.
Holder believes the West Indies have the talent to win the tournament, but some elements need to fall into place.
Execution is the name of the game, so more or less we just need to find a way to put it together. And not only put it together in the batting front, but a complete game. You know, I think we still got to look at the other facets of the game. You know, in the field, we obviously fielding wins games, and then definitely we just got to be consistent with the ball as well too. So we've got a big challenge ahead of us in terms of bringing together a complete game.
West Indies versus Zimbabwe bowls off at 4 a.m. TT time on Wednesday. Wayne Cunningham, TTT Sport.
West Indies head coach Phil Simmons says the focus is now on defeating Zimbabwe, as a defeat will send them crashing out of the World Cup. Simmons says it is important that the players get into the right mindset in what is a crunch game for the two-time World T20 champions.
Does the short turnaround now, does it help getting back out there quickly on Wednesday?
I think it helps, a day tomorrow to just rest and reflect on how things went, what we have to change and how we have to think in the next game, because as someone said, we've been out there, we've been hitting balls, we've been practicing scenarios, we've been thinking about it. It's now to put it into play.
Does being in this position now with, weather forecaster later in the week is bad, do you start thinking about how many you need to beat Zimbabwe and you need to beat them well, net run rate, because your backs are against the wall a little bit? Are those conversations coming into it more?
We need to beat Zimbabwe first. We think about everything else. We need to beat Zimbabwe. So I think that's the first step. As we go along, when we get back here on at this time on Wednesday, then we may be thinking a lot different and all those things that you spoke about.
How important is it also to not even think about the possibility that you don't get out of this group into the next stage? It's just one game now, because there are just he said, the turnaround so quick. So how important is it to not get into that mindset at all?
No, you can't get into that mindset. You have to think about the next game. You have to think about Zimbabwe and how we're going to beat Zimbabwe. We watched last year, Bangladesh and them, they lost the first game and they still ended up in the Super 12. So we just got to think about Zimbabwe right now.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gill. Thanks for watching.